Intro, gentlemen. Have you ever wondered what a woman truly feels when you are not around? The question sounds simple, but the answer cuts deep into psychology, attraction, and even the philosophy of human desire. Slavoj Žižek, the contemporary philosopher known for exposing hidden truths beneath everyday life, teaches us that absence is not simply nothing. In fact, absence is one of the most powerful presences a man can create. What you don't say often speaks louder than what you do. What you don't do often defines you more than what you attempt. When you're not around, you're not just invisible. You become a living question in her mind. And in that question lies attraction, longing, and sometimes fear of loss. In today's video, we are going to break down this psychological reality through the lens of Žižek's philosophy and female psychology. This is not about manipulation. It's about understanding the silent game of human desire, so that you, as a man, can reclaim your power without chasing, begging, or losing yourself. Žižek often said that ideology works best when we think nothing is happening, but in relationships, psychology works the same way. When you are absent, something very real is happening in her mind. Let's uncover it. Part 1. Absence. As desires fuel, Žižek builds much of his philosophy on Lacan's psychoanalysis, where desire is never about the object itself, but about the lack that surrounds it. Applied to female psychology, this means one thing. A woman does not fall for you because you are simply there. She is drawn to you because of the mystery, the gap, the unfulfilled space that your absence creates. When you are not around, you become the unfinished sentence in her mind. You become the gap that demands to be filled, and she subconsciously begins to project onto that gap what she wants you to be. This is why being overly available or always chasing is destructive. If you are constantly present, you remove the very fuel that sustains desire. Think about it. A movie is powerful not just because of what it shows, but because of what it withholds. A story without suspense is boring. A relationship without the possibility of missing each other becomes suffocating. Žižek would argue that when you're not around, you are not absent. You are more present than ever, because she imagines you, wonders about you, and feels the tension of your silence. And here's where psychology comes in. When a woman values you, your absence triggers longing, reflection, and sometimes even admiration. She starts replaying your words, your gestures, your energy. She notices how the room feels quieter without you. She compares other men to you and finds them lacking. In short, absence multiplies your presence, but when she does not value you, your absence simply goes unnoticed. This is the test of truth. If your absence hurts her, you matter. If it doesn't, you don't. Part 2. The hidden anxiety of not knowing. Slavoj Žižek often says that the most unbearable thing is not pain, but uncertainty. Think about it. People can endure suffering if they understand it, but the unknown is what drives the human mind insane. The same applies here. When you are not around, the woman is left with questions. What are you doing? Who are you with? Why are you not reaching out? Is she losing your attention? This uncertainty is not weakness, it is the psychology of attraction at its core. For women, connection is emotional oxygen. When a man they value withdraws even slightly, it creates a void. Into that void rushes insecurity, curiosity, and fear of replacement. Žižek would say this void is not neutral. It is structured like ideology. It forces her to build a story, a fantasy, to explain your absence. Maybe you're working on something great. Maybe you're focused, disciplined, and too busy chasing your mission to chase her. Maybe you're losing interest. Maybe another woman has captured your attention. She doesn't know. And it is precisely this not knowing that keeps you in her thoughts. Men often make the mistake of filling every silence, answering every text instantly, proving their loyalty through constant presence. But Žižek teaches us that meaning arises not in fullness but in lack. Your silence, your absence, your refusal to over-explain, these are not weaknesses. They are the very tools that make her wonder, and in wondering she feels. Female psychology thrives on emotional movement. Without mystery, there is no movement. Without absence, there is no craving. So what does a woman really feel when you are not around? She feels the weight of uncertainty. She feels the pulse of desire sparked by your silence. She feels the invisible presence of your absence. And if she values you, this absence becomes unbearable. She begins to miss you more than she expected. She begins to realize your worth without you lifting a finger. Zizek's insight reminds us, sometimes the most radical act is to do nothing, and yet that nothing changes everything. When you are not around, a woman is not only thinking about you, she is also forced to confront herself. Slavoj Žižek often reminds us that desire is never purely about the object, but about how the object reflects our own sense of value. In this case, your absence acts as a mirror. She begins to ask herself, why is he not here? Why is he not chasing me? Am I not enough? Or is he simply too strong, too independent, too self-contained to orbit around me like other men do? This is crucial. Your absence forces her to measure her worth. Most men are predictable, texting constantly, complimenting endlessly, always available. But when you are not around, and especially when you are disciplined and not chasing, you create an entirely different effect. She has to earn your attention. She has to question if she has done enough to keep your interest. In Zizek's terms, your absence introduces a rupture in her reality, a disturbance that forces her to reevaluate her role in your story. And here's where the paradox appears. The more she tries to figure you out, the more power you have. Because desire is not about satisfaction, it is about tension. A woman values what she must work for, what she cannot fully grasp. If you are always present, always giving, you rob her of the chance to reflect on her own effort. But when you step back, when you are not around, she realizes that her actions or lack of actions determine whether you remain in her life. Your absence is not emptiness. It is a test, and she feels it deeply. Part 4. The fear of replacement. Let us go deeper. Zizek is famous for saying that love is not about finding perfection, but about finding someone whose flaws you can live with. Yet beneath this romantic idea lies a brutal truth. People always fear being replaced. When you are not around, and when you show no desperation to cling to her, a woman begins to feel the silent pressure of competition. She may not say it, she may not show it, but deep in her subconscious she knows there are other women. She knows that if you are not orbiting her, you could be orbiting someone else. Or even worse for her ego, that other women could be orbiting you. This is the hidden anxiety that absence awakens. Zizek would call it the trauma of the real, the moment when fantasy collapses and reality intrudes. In this case, the fantasy that she is the center of your universe collapses when you do not show up. The reality is simple. You are a free man not tied to her approval. And that freedom terrifies her, because it makes her realize she is not in control. Men underestimate how powerful this fear of replacement is. It is not about jealousy in the shallow sense, it is about status, value, and self-perception. A woman who values you will feel that if she does not hold your attention, another woman surely will. And in today's world where attention is the new currency, the idea that her stock may be dropping in your eyes keeps her restless. This is why absence can be more effective than confrontation. Instead of arguing, instead of proving a point with words, simply not being around communicates the message. My time, my presence, my energy are not guaranteed. Earn them. This fear of replacement activates a competitive instinct. She might not admit it, but deep inside, she starts to fight for your presence. Even if she does nothing outwardly, the silent anxiety remains. And it is this anxiety that makes her value you more. Zizek would smile here, because what appears as distance on your side is, in fact, a strategy that reveals her dependency on your presence. Part 5. The fantasy she creates in your absence here. lies one of Zizek's most fascinating insights. Fantasy does not supplement reality, it structures it. In simple words, what we imagine often matters more than what we experience. When you are not around, a woman does not simply pause her feelings for you. Instead, she builds a story in her mind. She imagines what you might be doing, where you might be, who you might be with. This fantasy is not neutral. It is powerful, and in most cases it intensifies her emotions. Think about it. When you are present, she deals with the reality of you, your words, your actions, your flaws. But when you are absent, she deals with the idea of you, which can be far more magnetic. Zizek calls this the gap of desire, where the fantasy of the other fills the emptiness left behind. In this gap, she might imagine you as the disciplined man who is too busy building his empire to text. Or she might imagine you as the mysterious figure surrounded by other women, untouchable and selective. Or she might fear that you are slowly detaching from her. In every version of this fantasy you hold the power, because you are the one shaping her imagination through your absence. She invests emotional energy into this inner narrative, and the more energy she invests, the more attached she becomes. Even negative fantasies, such as fearing you are with another woman, can fuel her emotional dependence, because they keep her focused on you. This is why absence, when paired with self-control, is not a weakness but a weapon. You are not ignoring her. You are allowing her mind to work in your favor. The more space you leave, the more her imagination fills it, and the stronger the emotional bond becomes. Zizek would argue that this is the paradox of desire. Sometimes doing nothing is what makes everything happen. Slavoj Zizek often says that we only recognize things by their opposite. Light is understood through darkness, joy through pain, freedom through limits. In relationships, the same law applies. Presence is only meaningful when it is contrasted with absence. If you are always there, always available, your presence loses its power. But when you step away, when you disappear into your own world, your eventual return strikes harder. When you are not around, you create contrast. She begins to see the difference between how life feels with you and how it feels without you. This contrast is what makes her realize your true value. Think of it like music. Notes mean nothing without silence between them. It is the pause, the break, that gives rhythm its beauty. The same is true with you. Your absence gives weight to your presence. Here's the danger. Most men destroy contrast by overexposing themselves. They text all day, they call constantly, they try to prove their love. But Zizek reminds us, ideology works best when it seems invisible. Likewise, attraction works best when it is not forced. When you allow her to feel your absence, you let her own emotions define you. She begins to miss your voice, your presence, your energy. And the more she feels the gap, the more she values the return. So remember this. A man's power is not in being everywhere, but in being scarce. Not in constant reassurance, but in disciplined restraint. When you are not around, you are not losing ground. You are gaining it by letting contrast do the heavy lifting. Part 7. The rebirth of respect absence. When handled with strength, does more than spark desire. It rebuilds respect. Respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, desire dies quickly. A woman may be physically attracted to a man, but if she loses respect for him, everything collapses. Now, what destroys respect faster than anything else? Neediness. A man who cannot be alone, who cannot pull back, who cannot stay centered without constant validation, loses his dignity. Zizek might say that true freedom is not doing whatever you want, but refusing to be enslaved by what others want from you. In relationships, this means a woman respects the man who can walk away, the man who can say no, the man who can disappear for a time because he is devoted to his mission, not just to her. When you are not around and when she feels the weight of your absence, she learns something vital. You are not dependent on her approval for your identity. This rebirth of respect transforms everything. Instead of seeing you as another man chasing her, she begins to see you as a man she must earn. Your absence has reset the balance. You are no longer the pursuer. You are the prize. And this realization forces her to rise to your level if she wants to keep you. Zizek would point out that this is not manipulation but revelation. Your absence reveals the truth. You are complete with or without her. And it is this completeness that makes her respect you more than anyone else. Ending. The paradox of presence through absence. So, what does a woman really feel when you are not around? She feels the fire of desire reignited by distance. She feels the mirror of her own value reflecting back at her. She feels the fear of replacement, the fantasy of your life without her, the contrast that defines your importance, and ultimately, the rebirth of respect. Your absence is not empty. It is full of meaning. Slavoj Žižek teaches us that the most powerful truths are often hidden in paradoxes. Here is the paradox for you to remember. By not being around, you become more present than ever. By saying nothing, you make the loudest statement. By stepping back, you move closer to her heart. Gentlemen, stop fearing absence. Stop believing that constant presence is the path to love. A king does not chase, he reigns. A man of value does not beg for attention. He commands it through discipline, silence, and self-respect. If she truly values you, your absence will torment her. It will force her to reflect, to crave, to respect, and to fight for your presence again. If she does not, then you have your answer, and you have saved your time and energy for someone who will. Remember, power is not in what you give endlessly, but in what you withhold wisely. Let Zizek's insight guide you. The real movement happens in the silence, because sometimes the strongest presence is your absence.